Here and welcome to another Call of Duty Warzone video. A lot of you have been asking me about the loadouts that I use in Warzone because they've changed a lot recently since I last did one of these videos. You'll probably have noticed the game's meta has changed a lot since Warzone first came out, as players begin to get a lot more comfortable with the game and are learning the map, along with which weapons perform best in what situations, and so on. So because of that, my loadouts are completely different. I'll also give you a load of tips on how best to lay your classes out so you can be ready for any situation that you're going to come across in Warzone. Also, 91.5% of you watching this video right now are not subscribed to the channel. We're so close to getting that under 90%, so subscribe and you'll win your next game of Warzone. I promise. Okay, let's start with the class that I've probably been using the most recently, which is my Grau MP5 class. This weapon combination absolutely destroys. The Grau is exceptional at those medium to long range gunfights, and I just love the MP5. It's just such a slick weapon that beats almost everything up close, apart from those snake shot pistols, which are getting nerfed very soon. So let's first of all start off with the Grau. I've recently changed how I set it up because I'm playing a lot more aggressively, trying to get consistent 30 kill games. So, as usual, I've got the monolithic suppressor, which just goes on every single gun in Warzone. You never want to be a red dot on an opponent's map from shooting your gun. It just opens you up to being pushed by other squads or easily targeted and flanked. You always want to try and reduce the amount of information that you're giving the enemy squads, so the monolithic suppressor is crucial. Next, we have the barrel. Now, I've started using the FFS 20.8 Nexus over the Archangel. It still has increased damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control, but a smaller reduction to the gun's mobility compared to the Archangel by quite a significant amount, and I also prefer the iron sight. Then I use the Commando foregrip under barrel for increased recoil stabilization and aiming stability. Then I've got the 50 round mag. The 60 round mag I feel isn't worth the extra reduction in the weapon's mobility, especially when I've got the MP5 as my secondary paired with amped, which I can switch to if worst comes to worst. And finally, I have the Cronen Sniper Elite rear grip for increased aiming stability and aim walking steadiness. Then just to add a bit of extra flair to the gun, I've got that obsidian camo on it, which I spent an absolute age unlocking on update day, and that's how my Grau 556 is set across all my classes. You can switch the Nexus barrel for the Archangel if you want to, both work really well. Then we have the MP5, which, as I said, probably is the best gun at close range in the game right now, and this build is so easy to use. You want the monolithic suppressor, of course. Then you want to put the F-Tac collapsible stock, which increases your movement speed, and aim down sight speed, which is perfect for you to be able to move aggressively at close range to pull off flanks and take enemy squads down before they know what's happening. Then I have the Merc foregrip underbarrel for recoil control and improved hipfire accuracy. I hipfire a lot with the MP5 while strafing from left to right. It's very hard for players that are ADSing with an assault rifle to hit you consistently at close range, so you're just going to come out on top. Then I use the 45 round mag paired with the sleight of hand perk. This is the only gun in the game I use sleight of hand with, as when you're using the MP5, you're going to be right in enemy players' faces and won't get that much time to reload. So sleight of hand is key to this class, especially if you want to be wiping out entire squads. Then for perks, I use EODs so I don't get easily taken out by RPGs or enemy C4s. Cold-blooded is becoming less useful as most good players now don't run the thermal sniper scope, as it's got a way slower aim down sight time. Then I'm of course using overkill to get the two weapons along with amped, so I can switch between my Grau and MP5 pretty quickly. Then I've got C4 as my lethal to take down enemy vehicles, and the heartbeat sensor, which is one of the strongest tacticals in the game. If I decide to use restock, I would then run stuns instead, but as the heartbeat sensor doesn't run out, it's almost a must pick. This class covers you in every situation in the game. If you're going for high kill games, this is the setup I would recommend grabbing, especially at endgame. You want to be able to switch between an assault rifle and SMG as much as possible, so you've got the best gun for the situation that you're in. My next loadout that I have is my Grau Sniper. Now, I use this when I'm wanting to play a little bit more of a slower game, or I'm playing with a squad that's not rushing into enemy teams as much. So having a sniper to get kills at a distance along with my growl is really useful. Now, the growl is the exact same as in the previous class. The monolithic suppressor, Nexus barrel, commando foregrip, 50 round mag, and then the Cronin sniper elite rear grip with that obsidian camo, of course. Then my sniper of choice is the HDR. It's quite simply the best sniper in the game for Warzone. Yes, the AX50 has a faster rate of fire, but the HDR just has virtually no bullet drop and is effectively hit scan. So you can hit moving targets at a distance fairly easily, which is a much harder feat with the AX50. Now, my HDR build is all about increasing aim down sight speed so I can get my shots off quickly and have it harder for enemy teams to spot my scope's glint. Both things are very important in Warzone. I use the monolithic suppressor so enemies can't see where I'm shooting from, then the 26.9 HDR Pro barrel for maximum range, then importantly on an attachment that I think is incredibly underrated, the tac laser, which speeds up your aim down sight speed along with increasing your aiming stability and aim walking steadiness so you can hit your shots easier. Then you want the F-Tac Stalker Scout stock for faster ADS speed, then the focus perk so you can hit your shots easier when you're under fire. Honestly, that is one of the best HDR builds that you can have in the game right now. I also customize my reticle as I'm not the biggest fan of the default scope reticle, so would recommend doing this with your sniper as well. Then for my perks, I'm using EOD, Overkill, and Amped, along with C4 and a heartbeat sensor. Before we move on to the rest of my classes, one tip that I would recommend you doing with your weapons is to remember to save your guns as custom modifications. So if you're ever swapping weapons around in your classes, you can do it a lot quicker. A small tip, but will save you a lot of time in the long run. My third class is then my Growl Ghost class. I use this class if I know I'm going to get multiple loadout drops in a short amount of time, so that I can have Ghost straight away rather than having to use my perk 2 for overkill. The Growl is set up in the exact same way. Monolithic suppressor, Nexus barrel, commando foregrip, 50 round mag, and then the Cronin sniper elite rear grip. Then for the secondary weapon, I currently have the snake shot pistols, which are set up with the 357 long barrel, the 5MW laser, the lightweight trigger, snake shot ammo, and then the Kimbo perk. But remember, these are getting nerfed in the near future, so could get swapped out for something different, or you could also use an RPG if you don't have a couple of players on your team already running them. Overall, this is a really strong class, which you don't even need to get a second loadout drop for, as the snake shots are incredible at close range, and the Growl will be able to deal with every other situation that you're going to run into. My next class is actually identical to my Growl Ghost class other than for 2 changes. So what you can do when putting this into your loadouts is just copy the previous class and put it underneath. Then you'll want to change Ghost for Restock, which recharges your equipment every 50 seconds in Warzone. What this means is that every 50 seconds you'll get another C4 and another stun grenade, because with this class I swap out the heartbeat sensor for stuns. Stuns are incredibly powerful and will swing a fight your way easily, as the majority of players are running Amped for perk 3 and not battle hardened. You're almost guaranteed to have a stun and C4 for every fight, which over the course of a whole match is definitely going to get you a couple of extra free kills. Then my next class is another one of my favorites for Call of Duty Warzone, and that's my M4A1 MP5 class. Now, the M4A1 and Growl are arguably the 2 best assault rifles in the game, with some players preferring the Growl and others the M4. On my M4A1, I run the monolithic suppressor, then the stock M16 Grenadier barrel, which I think is the strongest barrel for the M4, as you need the maximum damage at range as you possibly can. And then because I'm using the heavier barrel, I then use the no stock attachment for increased mobility. I then have the Ranger foregrip, which really helps keep the recoil of the M4 down to help make you a lot more consistent at landing your shots on your opponents. And then finally, I use the 60 round mag. You can use the 50 if you want a bit of extra mobility, but I personally use the 60 on the M4. My MP5 is then the exact same as you saw earlier, the monolithic suppressor, F-Tac collapsible stock, sleight of hand, 45 round mag, and then the Merc foregrip. You'll then have EOD, overkill, and amped as your perks with a C4 and heartbeat sensor. Easily one of the best classes in the game, so do make sure to let me know which version of this that you'll be using down in the comments below, the Growl or the M4A1. Then my 5th best loadout for Call of Duty Warzone is a variation of what we just saw, but with the M13 instead, which is a very underrated assault rifle. It's incredible at range and has one of the fastest times to kill if you're landing your headshots because of the gun's fire rate. You'll want the monolithic suppressor, the Tempest marksman barrel, then you'll want the tac laser, which is just going to make your gun so much better, with the only negative being a visible laser when you're aiming down sight, which players aren't going to notice unless you're fighting at close quarters, in which case you should be using the MP5 anyway. Then you want the Commando foregrip and 60 round mag. You want the 60 round mag over the 50 purely because of the M13's rate of fire. If you want to, you can remove the Commando foregrip for an optic if you're not the biggest fan of the iron sights, and it will still perform well. Then you'll want the exact same MP5 build again, along with EOD, overkill, and amped for your perks, and then a C4 and heartbeat sensor. I then have a brand new class I've added to my loadout since the new update, which allows you to drop weapons for your teammate, and that's called Weapon Share. Now, this class is designed for a situation where I know my teammate isn't going to be able to make it to a loadout drop, but I am. And it's set up with my 2 best assault rifle builds. The Growl with monolithic suppressor, Nexus barrel, Commando foregrip, 50 round mag, and the Cronin Sniper Elite rear grip, along with the M4A1 with the monolithic suppressor, M16 barrel, no stock, Ranger foregrip, and 60 round mag. Then when I either buy my teammate back into the game or they get back into the match from the gulag, I can instantly drop them a powerful weapon, which means they're going to be able to be much more likely to be able to help me win the match than if they take the risk of going for a loadout drop in a dangerous location or having to fight with a floor loot weapon. It's very situational but could make all the difference in the end, so it's worth having as one of your 10 loadouts. I then have my endgame panic class, which is for when you probably guessed it, I'm coming back into a match and everything has gone to hell. Most importantly, this class must have an SMG primary weapon. So I use the MP5 as it's the standout performer, especially at close range, which end circles normally involve. It's got the monolithic suppressor, F-Tac collapsible stock, Merc foregrip, 45 round mag, and then sleight of hand. But what makes this class interesting is the secondary. And no, it's not the snake shot pistols. What you want to do is have a pistol sidearm with the fully loaded perk. This means you get maximum pistol ammo, which is shared with SMGs. So the second you pick your class, your MP5 has max ammo, which instantly removes a potential problem that you get at end circles. So you can take on multiple enemies without having to loot. I then have all the main counters for my perks. EOD to survive explosives, Ghost to stay off radar, and then Battle Hardened to survive stuns. I won't be switching weapons with this class, so you don't need amped. I then use a C4 and heartbeat sensor. If you want to mix things up, you could potentially go for restock instead of Ghost, and then take stuns over the heartbeat sensor. But this class can really come in clutch for you at endgame. Then my 2 final classes are designed for when you need a specific weapon in the game. You'll use these from a second loadout drop so you can get the right perk too, along with another secondary weapon. So first of all, I've got the sniper class, which is the same as the HDR we saw earlier, with the monolithic suppressor, 26.9 HDR Pro barrel, tac laser, F-Tac Stalker Scout stock, and then the focus perk. Then the secondary weapons are snakebite pistols, but you'll usually pick your first gun straight back up, which should either be the M4A1 or Growl. Then remember, these classes should have the perks, lethal, and tactical setup that you want for endgame. So you can either have EOD, Ghost, and Amped, or EOD, Restock, and Amped. If you go for Restock, you'll want stuns as your tactical. If it's Ghost, you'll want the heartbeat sensor. Then finally, I just have an MP5 class. I identical to the sniper loadout, but with the MP5 that we've seen multiple times within this video. And as I said, I only select these two loadouts when I need a new secondary weapon and my perk too. A big tip I'll also give you is pay attention to how you lay out your class loadouts. You want to be able to choose the correct class in the quickest amount of time. So have the classes you use the most at the top, and then have the classes that you pick up on second loadouts at the bottom. So you know where you need to go when you go for your class. If you spend ages choosing your class, it increases the chance that you get killed by a sniper as you're sitting still. So there we have it, my 10 best class loadouts for Call of Duty Warzone right now. Make sure to let me know what class you're using down in the comments below. And also remember, you can always swap the snake shots out for an RPG if you want to. Subscribe if you're new and smash that like button, and I'll see you next time.